Bowser in Smash has had one of the worst starts in any of Smash's competitive games, being seen as a low tier for 2 games in a row. But the thing about Bowser is they actually did something rare and properly fixed the problems with the character. Now this is going to be an interesting study on how the character has evolved and truly just became something else almost entirely. It's going to be an interesting evolution from start to finish, as Bowser was one of the first ever characters chosen for Melee, as he was easily one of the most highly requested characters on the official Smash 2 fan character request board, and he was an obvious choice of the game because, I mean, duh, it's Bowser at the end of the day. Although it wasn't sunshine and rainbows for him, he pretty much was an awful character in competitive play in Melee, with the slowest initial dash in the game. And these characteristics also allow Bowser to have a short wave dash, and the slowest jump squat in the game, even slower than Giga Bowser. And this is a unique thing for him, as it makes him really sluggish when trying to get off the ground. And having the slowish initial dash isn't great either. Obviously, his greatest strength is his raw power. His KO potential is insane. Many of his attacks are the strongest of their kind, and their damage output can reach perhaps more ludicrous levels. His uncharged forward smash can deal 24%. His down tilt is the second highest damage output move tilt in the game, behind Ganondorf's dealing 22, has actually some of the best finishing moves in the game with his smash attacks and his tilts. Even his aerials like up air is actually kind of good. Koopa Claw as a command to grab is also a decent tool. So while some characters in Melee definitely struggle with KO potential, Bowser definitely doesn't. But he does have some large hitboxes that make him an offensive presence. His throws are actually pretty hit or miss, while he has up throw that could be a pretty decent setup tool on fast fallers. His down throw is actually bugged in the NTSC version. It can do 0% to Puff and Game & Watch, but thankfully they fixed this in the PAL version. And they also removed flame canceling in this version of the game too, which is when you could cancel neutral B. It was an advanced tech. A lot of Bowser mains definitely know what I'm talking about. His throw game was considered risky compared to any other characters in the game, as he had this that could happen. One of Bowser's most versatile moves is his up special. Whirling Fortress is actually a really decent move on the ground, actually being one of his best moves in his kit. A combo breaker, and it also has quick startup, and it comes out at frame 5, so it allows him to at least have a decent out of shield option, and it's a dangerous substitute to Bowser's poor defensive rolls, for example. He can also quickly grab the ledge with his Whirling Fortress, one of the icing on the cake as far as his moveset goes, and it really helps his edge guarding, and his ledge attack is actually really good. When he's below 100%, he has actually one of the best ledge attacks in the game, and it covers a decent amount of stage, although when he gets above 100%, it does become significantly worse. And he also has one of the fastest, highest reaching attacks. And
this video is sponsored by ENEBA. ENEBA.com is a gaming marketplace with over 40,000 digital products and is continuously expanding to become your go-to platform for your gaming needs. ENEBA.com offers the hottest deals on any title, old or new. There's discounts for games like Red Dead Redemption 2 to Minecraft to Mario Odyssey, Fortnite. They really care about customer satisfaction by offering 24/7 live support to resolve any concerns regarding a purchase. Whether you're a PC gamer or you prefer consoles, ENEBA has you covered. Use the link down below to get started with ENEBA.
This ledge attack is so good because of its speed, and it covers a large area on the stage, and its hitbox can push opponents off stage. His forward air can be used as a zoning tool and also as a finishing tool off stage. It has a lot of reach on it, while back air is a semi-spike, and it also is 2 useful tools to give opponents. Bowser's extreme power that greatly sacrifices his speed, however, it can cause him to be considered one of the worst characters in the game because he is pretty lopsided. Despite being average dash speed and having some poor air speed, he does have a lot of the slowest attributes in the game across the board when it comes to his stats, and his 8-frame jump squat is one of the clear things that is holding him back. His Flame Breath is also probably one of the worst projectiles in the game. It is an awful special move. It has high startup, and it isn't really that rewarding at all, and it loses power over time. It is almost completely useless outside of niche edgeguard uses. And he has way better tools than this move. Really, you're just kind of showboating if you're using this move. His aerials are also really risky. While I did mention their good qualities to them, if you just spam them in place a lot, you can tend to be punished for overusing them. They do have a lot of end lag, especially if you're bad at L canceling his moves. You really need to know how to L cancel with Bowser because it really saves his moveset's crazy amount of lag without it. Bowser's poor neutral game is exacerbated by his bad defensive options. Bowser tends to be called the Whirling Fortress character because this tool really defines his moveset, and a lot of his other tools are a lot worse than Whirling Fortress. I mean, his really bad defensive options aren't helping him either. It makes it hard for him to escape out of pressure, and also him having one of the largest character models in the game out of all of the characters in the cast, it's not going to help him either when it comes to being comboed and also being projectile camped. He has no way of dealing with projectiles other than power shielding, if he's even good at that. He also has short range, a really laggy grab that can be punished. One of the easiest characters to combo in the game, and his poor approach options and extreme amounts of lag are going to make him really predictable, and a lot of characters are just going to enjoy fighting against him. So while yes, he does have a high endurance, him being the heaviest character in the game, he can live for a long period of time per stock. That does help him out, but it also at the same time makes him a really easy character to combo. I mean, a lot of characters, even the low tiers, have chain grabs on him. That's how bad it is. So his slow, predictable, and easy gimpable recovery is not really going to help his survivability, even though he has really solid weight for his endurance, I guess. His recovery really sucks, especially when getting down aired by Meteor Smash. He can die at extremely low percent even for that, and his recovery is further hampered by his poor airspeed and not having many other ways to recover other than Whirling Fortress and, the occasional side B, I guess. Since the beginning of the metagame, Bowser has always been seen as a bottom tier character and is ranking at the near bottom almost every single tier list consistently. It's really sad to see. And a lot of the problems that I mentioned were things that people noticed right away. Obviously, he has pitiful matchups, and he had very poor tournament results because of this, as Bowser would just be either second to last or last on almost every single tier list. His matchup spread is actually one of the worst in the game. Now, how does he do in Brawl? Well, he actually did receive some buffs compared to Melee, but also at the same time, plenty of nerfs. This is actually not a very good version of Bowser either. They were trying to significantly improve his recovery, and they decreased the startup lag on his claw attacks, and he has increased range on his side special, having significantly higher utility than Koopa Claw. Lastly, the introduction of hit stun canceling benefited him because it makes him less vulnerable to combos, and it improves his endurance because it allows him to live longer. But they did nerf him a lot. They toned down a lot of the stronger aspects of the character. He's no longer the strongest character in the game, with many of his attacks dealing less damage and knockback, and making it more difficult for Bowser to KO his opponents. They even made Bowser heavier, which, yes, slightly improves his endurance, sure, but it also makes him actually even easier to combo in that respect. And his 8-frame jump swap between Melee and Brawl is still going to make him really bad when it comes to getting off the ground. His fast edge guarding attacks have less intangibility and shorter duration, making it significantly less effective as a tool, while his grounded Whirling Fortress is definitely nerfed. They made it slower and weaker. It's still a very strong move out of shield though. And finally, the removal of L canceling has crippled his poor air game, rendering him a lot slower than he was even in Melee. And a lot of his moves are now a lot more unsafe. Bowser doesn't have to deal with a lot of the Melee chain grabbing, and because a lot of that stuff doesn't really exist anymore. But there is chain grabbing in Brawl that is very defined in this game. If you know, you know. A lot of characters have weight specific chain grabs, and Bowser is going to be chain grabbed really easily compared to what he was before. So he still remains as a bottom tier character with multiple poor matchups. Bowser was initially seen as a solid mid tier character, being ranked at 22nd. His speed and mobility buffs were noticed, and this was combined with his still. Brawl actually allowed for Bowser to at least have some sparse results here and there, but it was mainly because the game engine was a lot slower. But the potential of other characters definitely pushed out Bowser later on, as he just became a classic low tier character. So he's still very slow compared to the rest of the cast, very large and thus heavily vulnerable to deadly Brawls, chain grabs, and combos, and also a very gimpable recovery to this day. He also hates camping just like he did in Melee as well. So he lacks a lot of the things that a lot of the high tiers in this game get, which is their own chain grabs to use or their cheese. Bowser doesn't have a lot of cheese, as he has a lot of the same weaknesses that he had in Melee. Some of them are slightly better, but a lot of his attributes are a lot worse too. Outside of the grab release follow-ups that were known for his character, this actually did help him a bit. Bowser would fall many spots in the tier list to being a low tier. Many people stating that Bowser was still definitely a low tier in Brawl. And this would also mean his player base would also stop playing the character and would obviously want to switch to more competent characters. It's basically not even seen that much in the meta at all. He actually became one of the most unpopular characters in the meta, having really no established active players who actually mained him. So he was a really rare character to play even in just casual play. So Bowser in the next Smash game will definitely need to change in order to be different from the previous iterations of the character. He's going to have to abandon the tank-esque movement and become more upright, because really that's the only way to make him good at this point. And actually Smash 4 did something interesting, as Bowser was considered an unviable low tier for 2 games in a row. Yeah, sure, he had great KO power, good endurance, decent range, a pretty solid out of shield game, a somewhat competent grab game at points, and a command grabs. But he did suffer from his poor frame data and his sluggish movement, in combination with having one of the biggest character models, weight, and this made him a punching bag in Brawl's meta and in Melee. They actually did something interesting, which was significantly improve his archetype. They improved his run speed, which has been significantly increased, and they also changed a lot of his animations. There's his new dash attack, making it easier for him to approach. I've noticed a lot of his moves don't have as much lag. He has a unique attribute known as Tough Guy, which allows him to armor very low knockback attacks and also gives him a rather unique advantage for his character size. And his weight has also been noticeably increased, which actually makes his endurance a lot better, and the removal of momentum canceling does kind of hurt him, also helps him too, I guess. It depends on who you ask. But the introduction of Rage in Smash 4 definitely helped Bowser a lot, because it allowed him to at least take advantage for him gaining more percent and actually deal more knockback at higher percentages. And there was a Smash 4 update where you truly got to see the wrath of Bowser, and especially with Rage. While his airspeed is slow, especially relative to the other characters in the game, his air dodge has much less end lag, so Aerial Whirling Fortress actually grants more height. This also makes it a lot harder to edge guard, so this did help one of his clear negatives, which was his recovery. And his dash attack is a solid burst option for the character. Although the best buff the character received was to his up throw. It actually became one of the best launching tools in the game because of the vertical angle it sends at, and the move is actually very good when you use in combination with up air. It becomes one of the most devastating up throw combos in the game, because at low percents you can very easily follow up with it, and also you can use other aerials even to just build percent with it. Dash grab also became a meme. It was actually crazy how much range his dash grab had. It put Melee Barth to shame. Although he did receive some nerfs in some ways, Bowser is still a more vulnerable character to combos due to the changes to hit stun canceling, which has further exacerbated the changes to weight dependent throws. His grab release animation now has 10 extra frames of end lag, which does actually kind of nerf him a little bit, and when combined with the general changes to particularly his aerial grab release, the removal of chain grabbing also completely removes his Brawl grab release jank. Although Bowser still has some of the same flaws that he had in Brawl, and he still lost some of his most effective tools, which actually improved his viability a lot, especially making up throw into one of the best combo throws in the game, essentially making it into a joke. The general opinion on Bowser actually changed for the better, as he was seen as an actual character in the meta now, no longer being seen as a low tier character that everyone just writes off. In the early Smash 4 tournaments, there was actually a Bowser Ditto Grand Finals in the first ever Smash 3DS tournament, which is interesting to note. He was actually considered one of the best characters in the early versions of Smash 3DS, but a lot of these characters did end up getting buffed and nerfed in different ways, and the removal of Ice Climbers as well definitely changed the game a lot. And the perception of Bowser's viability did fall, as there were some buffs but also some nerfs to tone down his up throw, for example, while buffing his recovery and side special. Bowser is still suffering from a lot of the same problems that he had before, like the poor frame data and the large hurt box, but now he is widely agreed to be an actual character in the meta, at least. So you'll actually see him this time around. He'll have some decent placements in tournament here and there, but the character did actually upset many people in tournaments, and this is later reflected by Bowser's placements at 25th, in addition to becoming both the second highest ranking mid-tier character and even surpassing his other heavyweight brethren Donkey Kong, who had a similar rise in the meta because of the up throw up air being really, really good for DK. So he saw a slight rise from 24th, and this actually allowed him to be seen as a high tier character in a lot of people's eyes, despite having the same amount of flaws that people know Bowser to have. But he's still considered one of the best heavyweights in the game. So he did change a lot. While in Smash Ultimate, Bowser has received many buffs and nerfs compared to Smash 4, and mainly his biggest strengths have been scaled back. His up throw still sets up into up air and it combos into itself and it kills at low percents. This obviously has been nerfed, as Smash 4 Rage has been toned down significantly, and this is a big part of why a lot of the Smash 4 stuff was toned down a lot in Ultimate. So both Bowser's ground and aerial mobility have been improved, having a faster jump squat, I know finally, right? And having some faster mobility for once. So his ground to air transitioning is actually the best it's ever been for the character, which is kind of funny looking back, as he was known for having the 8-frame jump squat, and now it's seemingly fixed in that way, as he has the same jump squat as every other character at 3. While they did receive some changes to his defensive game due to some changes to armor on his tilts and his smash attacks, this also tones down one of his issues with his tough guy armor, as it had improved it in general, and it makes it actually an excellent way of having a defensive option for the character. His punish game is actually slightly better in some ways, as his flying slam has significantly faster startup overall. It's on par with the fastest standing grabs in the game. However, he did receive many nerfs, especially to his grab game. His well-known pivot grab does not have the same amount of range that it had previously. And up throw to up air is still a combo tool, but it's a lot weaker than what it was previously. And his ground game is actually pretty decent, but to put in perspective, a lot of other characters like Roy are really good at comboing heavyweights, and they are a lot better in this game because of their ground game being at their peak. Even the air dodge change didn't really help Bowser that much defensively, but he does miss a lot of things like Smash 4's air dodge spam, and the changes from Smash 4 to Ultimate definitely nerfed Bowser big time, as they took away a lot of the polarizing aspects of the character's moveset. So Bowser's speed improvements are marginal compared to other characters in the game, but also at the end of the day, he's actually not a bad version of the character. He's definitely outclassed though, at least more than he was previously. In competitive play, Bowser was actually seen as a solid pick in the meta, as addition to his armor, changes on his tilts and smash attacks, and the universal changes to landing leg and his jump squat actually improved him, but also they toned down a lot of the quirks that he was known for in Smash 4. He had some pretty average top 8 finishes, and unfortunately Bowser did not maintain a lot of his positives, at least in the DLC period, as he began to fall out of favor and began to drop to being upper mid tier. Power creep definitely hurt the character a lot, and also the introduction to more defensive play like Sonic and Steve, like becoming more prominent and Steve being introduced as a DLC character, were definitely blows to Bowser's long-term growth, because he was outclassed by a lot of these characters' playstyles. So he had a pretty large drop off from the first and second tier list to 50 to 59th. It still is interesting to see how each iteration of the character has changed, and Bowser has had probably one of the biggest changes when it comes to the way his archetype has changed from Melee Brawl to especially Smash 4 and Ultimate. Anyways, he's technically a viable character still, so there is that. There's channel memberships down below if you guys want to get videos early. There's a link down below. There's also a Discord and an Instagram. Check those out. Make sure to subscribe. Thank you guys for watching the video.